Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is a great pleasure to have you all again. It's the last long weekend of the summer. It's one last step in this cycle, right? So it's a summer and then fall and then everything goes back to what we are going to discuss today, which is the law of progress, right? So it's a cycle that we have to go through, right? By the way, thank you all of you watching us through the internet on our YouTube and Facebook channels. But before we start, and by the way, the lecture is by Marcio, so he's going to bring all the information about the law of progress. But before we start, we are going to have the initial reading and prayer.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So the reading of today is from the book Our Daily Bread. And Marcel basically wanted me to start the lecture because it's pretty long. The march. In any case, I must keep going today and tomorrow and the next day. Jesus. It is always important to move ahead steadily in search of a definitive spiritual edification. It is indispensable to march, overcoming obstacles and shadows, transforming all the pain and anguish into ascending steps. Charting his goal, Jesus referred to the direction of the march to Jerusalem, where the final glorification through martyrdom awaited him. But we can apply these teachings to our personal incessant experiences on our route to the Jerusalem of our own redeeming testimony. Notwithstanding, it is imperative to clarify the characters of the journey in the acquisition of eternal treasures. Many believe that to move forward is to take a stand of evidence in the world, acquiring transitionary positions of greatness and bringing the wealthiest things into the personal cycle. However, it is not. In this regard, those so-called routine men perhaps have greater possibilities in their favor. The dominant personality in ephemeral situations has the road filled with dangers, with complex responsibilities and atrocious threats. The sensation of grandeur argument, the feeling of the downfall. It is imperative to walk constantly, but this journey completes the eternal spirit towards the improvement of his man's inner conquests. Very often, many persons who presume to be on the higher peaks of their trip towards the divine wisdom find themselves particularly paralyzed in the contemplation of will-o'-the-wisp fire. Let no one be fooled by this false rest stop. It is important to work, to know, to illuminate ourselves and to attend to Jesus Christ daily. In order to fixate this lesson with us, we have been born on earth, sharing its struggles, making use of the body, and on earth we shall be reborn once again. So let's now, with this beautiful energy that surrounds us, thank God and all the beloved spirits for the opportunity of being here together one more time to learn a little bit more of Jesus' teachings, to continue our progress. Thank you, so be it.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just unlock here my notes. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Thank you for having you here in this sunny and warm day that we have today. And as I said, we're going to talk about the law of progress. But before we talk about the law of progress, let's go back a little bit and talk about where everything starts, right? Because if we're talking about progress, it means that it has started somewhere. And in the book, What is Spiritism, from Kardec, it brings a question that what is the state of the soul at its origin, right, in the beginning of everything? And the spirits answer back saying, souls are created simple and ignorant, that is, without knowledge or any understanding of good and evil, but with an equal aptitude for all things. So we also, I think most of you guys that I can see here, and hope those who are hearing off on the internet, is already used it to Spiritism, and we have heard this many times, right? That we are all created equally, that we are all simple and ignorant, and that means that we have no understanding of good and bad in the beginning, right? We have that seed inside of us that we know that God put in our conscious, all the laws, all the knowledge that we need, that is there, and we need to develop it, right? So it's like, if you think about every single person, every single spirit, when they are created, it's like if they are created in the same moment, it's like two babies, right? Two twins. They are created, they born at the same time, at the same day, in the same family. So everything is exactly the same for both of them, right? Of course, in a human being incarnating these days, they have a lot of past lives, etc., etc. But I think like if they were creating right that moment, right? In this life, in this moment, they are pretty much the same, right? Supposing that they don't have any disease, nothing, okay? And then he continues saying, at their beginning, they are in a sort of infancy with their either own will or perfect awareness of their existence. So in the very beginning, they, like babies, they don't understand much, right? We need to guide them. That's how things happen with our kids, right? We guide them, we teach them, we introduce new food, we help them to start walking, and they start to make their own decisions, right? So that desire to grow, it's part of our essence. It's part of our spirit. It's in us, the desire to continue growing, progressing, right? And in the book Genesis that Kardec put together, it also says spirits are created simple and ignorant, but with the aptitude for acquiring all knowledge and for progressing in every direction for the exercise of their free will. So it's there, and that's exactly what he put here in the What is Spirits. Little by little, their free will develop along with their ideas. So this need of progress is part of us, and we will continue developing it as we go through our free will. And what free will means? It's have our freedom of thoughts which lead us to action. So that's in the Spirit's book. There's nothing that I'm creating here. It's in the Spirit's book, saying that as we think, we act. As every time that we made a thought, we make a decision, we are making actions, right? And that is our free will. With our free will, what we would be? Would be machines, right? It's like I don't know, a microwave that you put there how much time you want, and then it cook for you, or any other machine that you can think about, right? So our free will, it's what make us go to the right or to the left. So going back to the twins, they can be raised in the same family, have the same school, have all the same opportunities, but they can make different decisions, right? Through their lives, they start to make their decisions, and one of them could be what we consider in a society today successful, have a good job, a good house, a family, etc. And then the other one that we consider not that successful could be poor, living in the streets, using narcotics, and all of those. So the same opportunities is given to every single person. It's what we do with our decisions every second, right? So we are all created equal. We are all on the same path. We all have the same chance. So what we do with that is what matters, right? And that is where the progress start to get into our lives, right? And in the Spirit's book, there is a question 114 that asks: Are spirits good or bad by nature, or one of this, or are the same spirits made better by the force of their own efforts? Right. So he's asking if we are creating good, are we created bad, or what really make us in that way? And the answer is the same spirits are made better through their own efforts. They rise from a lower to a higher order as they improve. So everyone incarnated in Earth today are not all good or all bad, right? We all have been making decisions through this life or previous lives every single day. There are some decisions are good decisions, other decisions not that good. Sometimes we may even think that is a bad decision could be good, some bad decision could be bad, good decision could be bad. So it's what do we have to think all the time? Always, of course, comparing to the laws of the God's laws. We know exactly what's right, what's wrong, but knowing everything that we have gone through, and what we are doing here, we need to think about the decision that we are doing every time. And then, as the Spirit answered to Kardec, it's through our own efforts that we make the progression. So there is nothing that no one else can make the decisions for us. No one else can make us progress. They can help us. They can give information. They can give guidance. But it's in us. It's each one of us who need to make our decisions and then progress towards the perfection, right? So in the next question on 115, I didn't put it there, but it's the spirits tell us that God has given each of them, each one of us, right? All the spirits create a mission, right? So God give a mission to each one of us. We always think a mission as something like what Kardec did, putting together all these books, right? Or what Chico Xavier did through his mediumship and all the books that he put together, or what Givaldo is doing today with those kids, or Mother Teresa, what she did. We always think about big missions, but the mission that God has given to us is that we progressively go learn more, have more knowledge, start to make the right decisions, and then help God to co-create the universe, right? Every single person here has a mission that God gives to us. And this main mission for now, for all of us, is that we can perfect ourselves as much as we can, right? We're never going to be as perfect as God, but if we take Jesus as the best example, in the Spirit's book, there is a question: what is the most evolved spirit I have so far? Jesus is the example. So let's take him as the example of perfection and try to get as closer as possible that we can from there, right? So it's through this incarnation, through these missions that we have in every single incarnation that we have here, that we're going to progress, right? It's through the experiences that we have every day that help us to progress. In the question 132 in the Spirit's book, it also says that God imposed incarnation for the purpose of leading spirits to perfection. So the main reason that we are here, is to progress, right? And what means to be perfect? What means to go to this perfection, right? So, there's this question that says, are there spirits who remain forever in the lower orders, right? So we are here, sometimes we feel that we are not progressing, there's sometimes we get stuck in and say, I'm still doing it, am I progressing, am I doing something? Or I may look to other people and say, what's going on with this planet, right? Are we still really progressing? And what the Spirit tells us is that no, all spirits will become perfect. They change a bit slowly, for, as we also said, a just and merciful Father cannot banish his children forever. Do you think that God, who is also great, so good, and so just, could be worse than yourselves? So, perfection is coming to every single person in this room, to every single person in this planet, incarnated or disincarnated, right? It's coming, and it's sooner or later it will happen. Just need to have a little bit of faith in each other, in ourselves, right? We need to remember that it's not like this. It's not overnight that it will become perfect. There's a lot of things that we have to go through, to learn and to experience to get there. And that progression will depend on only one thing, that is in our desire to progress, in our desire to submit ourselves to God's will, And what that means, right? What it means to be submit. What means to submit ourselves into God's will? That means to love. That means to understand all those laws that He's putting here, for us to follow. The law of justice. Forgive, to be charitable towards others, love our enemies. Everything. If you go to the book, the Gospel According to Spiritist, there is a chapter about to be perfect, right? And you can understand how we can be under God's laws and God's wills. Okay, and then there's another question that says, can spirit regress? And we go back and we become less evolved than we are today? Clearly not, right, guys? And the spirit answers no. As they progress, they gain an understanding of what is holding them back from perfection. So we will never go back. It's like going to school. We never go back when you progress 2 years and then you go, oh, I didn't learn something in 3 years ago. Let me go back there and do all that year again. No, you may adjust your learning here to remember to study again what you have done, have not learned that year, but you never go back. We cannot go back on what we have already learned. So if we learn something, we learn it. It's there. It's ours. No one can take that from us, right? We can be in the same level for a few years. We can be repeating. I mean, in this case, some incarnations, right? We keep going for the same thing, but that's never forever. Never forever. That's, for me, one of the most consoling things on the law of progress, right? That it's going, it's moving forward. It's never stuck it on the same place, right? And then Kardec asked another question that we keep hearing many times. If you anything, go into the social media and see some bad comments there. The word is still the worst. It's getting worse and worse. Or we keep saying that in my generation we wouldn't do this. Like our generation was better than the next one, right? And I ask the question: humankind's perversity is very great. Doesn't it seem like humans are regressing instead of progressing, at least for a moral point of view? And then the answer is, you are mistaken. Observe the holy closely, and you will see that they are advancing because they have a better understanding of what evil is, living the day by day to reform their abuses. The excess of evil will make them understand the need for the good and for reforms. So let's think a little bit about it, right? And what these answers tell us. If we take Jesus' teachings, right? If we take that moment that he was asked about that adultery woman that by law she should be killed by stones, right? And at that moment, that was the law. That was what we understood as the right thing to do. Was it right? No, it was not. But it was the best that we could do at that time. And Jesus came. Jesus came and teach us a new lesson, right? He gave us the chance to progress a little bit more, and he brought to the law the love, right? And then when he asked everyone who has never committed any sin, who stoned first, he's teaching us that we are all equals. We are all the same. We are all making mistakes, and we all has a chance to start over. So that was what Jesus brought to us. He put love into the laws. And then we have Spiritism coming almost 2,000 years later, right? And it brings another piece for us. That is charity, right? Not that Jesus didn't brought charity, but Spiritism is bringing this as one of the central parts. It's putting the love in action through charity. Right, so and in the moment that it comes, if we think about in the 18th, 19th century, it comes in the moment that we have a lot of technology blooming, right? A lot of new ways of the materialism to be, right? With all the technology starting to be developed, and even today, we see very fast. It's not that time it was not as fast as today, but we still have a lot of science coming and questioning all the religions things, right? And then it was easy to any materialist say, yeah, everything about we see in the Bible or any religious book does not make sense because science is proving the contrary, right? And then Kardec bring the knowledge from the spirits and help us to put some things together and say, all right, so now science and religion should walk together, and then we can see the value of that, right? And in truth, if you would look around, we will find goodness in people, in actions that is coming from the society and people in general around us, right? And we don't need to look far. We can look in our families, our friends, in your social media, your Facebook or any other channel, you may find people doing good things there, right? In our workplace, we see a lot of workplaces now making advertising about what their employees did, right? We did an event to help kids in need, or cooking for a family, or cooking for a shelter, etc. Right? We do not only people, organizations, companies, they are doing that. Some people may say it's because of marketing, it helped their brand. Other people say, well, it's a nice thing to do, and they really believe that's the right thing, incorporate that to their culture. What's important, that bring the example to their employees, etc. So, two ways of seeing it. You choose which one you want to consider that. But it's happening all the time. Sometimes we see people saying, oh, these kids today, they are saying things that we don't even know where they came from, nice things, values that we thought that we have never, they have never learned it before. But the reality is, we know about the reincarnation, right? So we are learning. So when we incarnate, these kids incarnating, they have that lesson, they have that moral values with them, and they are bringing to us. So progress is happening. We cannot doubt that, because it's here. We are better than what we were yesterday. So if you look yourself right now, this is the best version of you. I don't remember who said that, but this is the best. I heard it, and I really like this, because every time that we look in the mirror, every day in the morning or whatever time you look to the mirror after the first time, look to that and say, this is my best version. It's better than yesterday, and it's worse than tomorrow. So we are always progressing, right? And we talk about the kids, and one thing that we discussed on our Wednesday study, I don't know if it was this last Wednesday or 2 weeks ago, but we talked about, we have been talking about the my generation is better than the previous generation, right? The next generation, sorry. Because in my times, I wouldn't do this or I do that the kids are doing today. And the reality is that we are the ones raising those kids, right? We are the one telling them what to do, what not to do, what is right, what is wrong. So if the next generation is worse than ours, which is not, but if it is, it's our fault. So it's for us to think about, what are we doing with this new generation? What are you doing to the kids that is boring, right? And we are giving the word to those kids to raise the next generations, right? To make this planet good or bad. It's all in their hands. So it's our job to teach them well, right? And let's not forget that in the future, we're going to be back, reincarnating this earth again. So what planet we want to see, right? So whatever we are teaching today to these kids, they will make this planet better or worse, right? And then we are the ones who will, again, be here to fix whatever we did wrong to them, right? So let's try to do our best to raise these kids in the best way possible with the best of our knowledge and moral values that we have. Okay, but keep going. And then Spirits Reveal, it's a magazine that Kardec was publishing every month until he disincarnated through, I guess, 10 years we have those magazines, if I'm not wrong. And one of the things I say, I'm here to tell you that moral progress is most useful to acquire because it disciplines us against our bad inclination. It makes us more charitable and dedicated to our brothers and sisters. Intellectual progress, however, is also useful to our advancement because it elevates the soul, helping us to make healthier assessment of our actions, facilitating moral progress. So, in Spiritism, we always, when we talk about the law of progress, we always talk about both things, right? Intellectually and morally. And when we talk about the moral values, we have a lot of those teachings in both books, but the Gospel according to Spiritism is all about that as well, right? The question 24 of the Spirit's book, it says that the intelligence is one of the essential attributes of spiritism. So, of spirit, sorry. So, the intelligence is part of us. So, we need to also develop ourselves intellectually. So, we are here to also do that. We are not here just to become only better people in the term of our moral things, but also intellectually. So, we need to balance both things all the time. The most important, the most useful to acquire is the moral one, for sure. But the intellectual will help that. And how do we evolve intellectually? Right? That's the law of labor that help us to progress intellectually. In the question 676, the spirits tell us that without labor, humans would remain in intellectual infancy. So our work, I keep telling myself I would love to retire now and just relax, spend time doing whatever I want. But how that would help me to continue evolve intellectually, right? Being there in my house doing absolutely nothing, watching TV, cleaning. My wife is saying, well, cleaning, it's work, right? So I don't want to do that. So it's important for us to go to our jobs and find our work, whatever our passion is, because that is also, remember, part of the mission that God gives to us, right? Whatever field that we are, and I remember complaining a lot about my job a few years ago, And one very good friend here at TSS told me, Marcy, it's part of your growth as well. Try to find what is good in your job. And I start to look at that differently. I start to see some positive things on my job as well, instead of just complaining and trying to get my retirement as soon as possible, right? So that help us. And when we read André Luiz books, at least I do, I feel very motivated to see how the Airbus looks like, how they go from one place to another, right? That's very, very modern, very advanced compared to what we have today. So it must be very cool. And so it's coming from there, all the knowledge that we have, right? It's our planet. We tend to think that the spiritual world is a mirror of what we have here. In reality, we are a mirror of what we have there. Everything that we, when internet was created, when some arts were created, we can see that in André Luiz's book. It's all inspiration that comes from what we live there, right? So it's helping the experience that we have in the spiritual world. When we come here, we have to put that together, and we build a better planet every day, right? So the intellectual progress and the labor is the main drive for us to continue bring for us what we need in terms of food, safety, well-being, and all of that is important. We need that that comfort, let's say, in our lives, and that we want that, and that is part of what helps us to progress. And then Kardec smartly asks, right, does moral progress always follow intellectual progress? And the Spirit says it is a consequence, but does not always follow it immediately. So it's not always in the same pace, right? Not always we develop something intellectually, the moral thing would come just next. And then how can intellectual progress lead us to moral progress in the Spirit? And so by making good and evil understandable, for then humans can choose between the two. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence, and increases the responsibility of humans for their acts. So let's put internet here as something. Many times we discuss it here to assess why is internet good or bad, right? we sometimes think that internet or all the cell phone and what we have maybe not that good because we're disconnecting from each other, right? And the reality is that it has both aspects, that good and bad in every single thing. It's on us to decide how we're going to use it, right? So as the internet being an example, right? How many times we saw, excuse me, how many times we saw people sitting at a table and other people supposed to have dinner together, talking and having fun together, they are texting or in the cell phone doing whatever, right? And maybe take pictures of the food everybody's putting, the nice meals that they are having, and then they are not really enjoying of being together, right? Yeah, that's a bad decision. But recently I learned about a situation. There is this the Fraternity Without Border, that they have humanitarian missions going to Africa and help kids in needs there. And they have every month, if I'm not wrong, they have a group going to there, leaving from Brazil, going to Africa, helping those kids. And every one of those missions has a theme, right? Sometimes it's doctors, sometimes it's dentists, and there was one of them that it was not doctors, not dentists. There is no doctors there, and a mother came with a kid, and that kid was very sick. And the first reaction was, well, we don't have doctors. There's nothing that we can do here today. So it's better if this woman just go to the hospital, go somewhere else, because there's nothing that we can do. The reality that the mother didn't left. She came again, and they look again to the kid, and they make a different decision that time. They said, you know what? Let's call through the internet. They had internet there. They connect with a doctor in Brazil. They show pictures of the kid. They connect through video, and voice, and the doctor told them to give a cream or something, a medicine there for the kid. And until they left, the kid was way better, you know. So the same thing, the internet, cell phone, connecting is doing a good thing, right? So it's all what we are doing. What decisions are we making every day? You know, everything that we have around us is good. It's for us to use, right? It's there. The spirits are not asking us to forget everything. Don't use the internet. Don't go to the doctors. Just pray. That's not what they are telling us, right? We're living this world, and we have to take advantage of it. And we have to take the advantage to progress ourselves intellectually and morally. So it's all decisions that will say where we're going to, right? And then, well, we talked about how we progress intellectually. It's through the law of the law of labor, and then the spirits bring to us that the way that we are going to progress morally is through the law of society, is connecting ourselves to each other, you know, living together in a society. And in the question 768, it asks, in seeking societal living, do people only obey a personal sentiment, or is there a wider providential purpose involved? Humans must progress. They cannot do so alone. However, since they do not all possess every faculty, they need contact with others. In isolation, they become brutal and weak. So how could we progress morally? How could we learn to forgive if we are isolated, right? If we're in a place, imagine like we're on a planet, and there's just one person on that planet. You know, there's no one doing anything wrong that you need to forgive that other person, right? And the law of society talk about, you know, all of us living in a big society, but if you think about just a small group of people in a family, how much they can grow together morally, right? Is there any family that is perfect? Sure, right? No. There's no perfect person. So if there's no perfect person, there is no perfect family in the sense of progression, because all the families are perfect for us. We are inserting the right family. We are there with the right people to progress morally. Right? In the Gospel according to Spiritism, in one of the Spirit teachings, a Spirit says, it is only through contact with their fellow beings in the most arduous struggles that they find an opportunity to practice charity. So it's the moment that we see someone else going for something that they are suffering very much, that we can go and help, right? When we are being the one suffering, there's someone that will give their hand to us and help us to move forward, right? So it's through charity that we're gonna progress morally. Okay, it's not the material charity. Let's not talk about that for now. It's material charity is important for sure, but we're talking about the moral charity, right? When we I'm there, spend some time with someone that is in need, just to talk. You know, when you smile to someone in the street, and that smile can change someone else's life. I saw a post on Facebook these days where a woman was there in a big line waiting to buy their ticket to go to the subway, and then someone just passed by and gave it the ticket. You know, she was not pregnant. She has a baby, and so she just needs to go to the line like everyone else. And someone came and gave a ticket to her. You know, go. You know, it's small things that we see all the time, and we forget. We are so focused on the bad things that we don't see the nice ones. But it's those small and good things that make us progress morally. So, consoling a friend, being indulgent, forgiving someone, it's always helping us to progress. And recently we just finished the reading of the And Life Goes On our summer book study, and there is this conversation between Evelina, who was trying to help her father to stop an obsession. I will not go into many details of the story to who didn't read the book yet can have a chance. But he tells her father, "Oh father, you must blame anyone. You must have suffered but pain is always blessed in God's sight. You must have endured difficult trials, but we now know that every day is opportunity for renewal and to higher destinations." So, in summary, what she's saying is that pain is good. How come pain is good, right? How come that can be something that God is blessing and saying, yes, go through it, and it will be good for you, right? And the way for us to think about this is because any trial that we're going through, any experience that we're going through that we call it as a pain, we are somehow repairing our errors, you know. And it could be something that we did this life. It could be something that we did in previous lives. In the Gospel according to Spiritist tell all about it, right? But we have to think there is not a punishment. It's not something that we're doing because we deserve that because of bad things that we did, right? Reality is, it's in us. It's each one of us willing to repair, right? So we put ourselves in those situations as we plan our lives, as we go through life, to repair what we did wrong, right? And it's easy to blame others, like what was happening in this situation, and say I'm doing this because that person, the other person, in this entire situation that I'm trying to do not tell anyone. But it is all about we shouldn't be blaming anyone for what's happening in our lives. We just need to look to that and say, all right, what lesson can I take from it? What can I learn from it? You know, and then we can move forward, and then we can take that opportunity to progress morally, right? And as Evelyn is saying, that's happening every day, every second. We have a new opportunity to renew, right? Our lives. We don't need to go to a new place. You know, I don't need to go to another country. I don't need to wait for another year. I don't need to wait for a new incarnation. You know, we talked about this Wednesday where we said, you know, let's stop saying, oh, this is for the next incarnation. As a Spiritist, we agree to say that, no, I will repair that in the next incarnation. This one is too late. And it's not. And in this book, one of the greatest lessons, at least for me, was that, you know, we can repair our mistakes right now. Start right now. And it tells a story of one of the an example of one of the characters of the book, that he killed someone and he could be the worst person in the book because he was the one who killed the other person, right? But the reality is that it seems that he was one of the best ones in the entire story, because the moment that he committed that, he felt guilt, and he started changing that behavior, right? So he became an honored man and praised by many around him, right? So we don't need to wait. If we did something wrong today, let's start tomorrow repairing this, or maybe not next to it. So we don't need to wait a total new life to become a new person. And I want to finish with this expression from Chico Xavier, where he says, "I know what I must be, and I'm not yet, but I give thanks to God for work, obey slowly within myself to one day become what I must be." So sometimes we can look to ourselves and compare to Jesus and say, well, I'm very far away from that. So we know what we should be, right? We know that we should be like Jesus, and we know that we're not there yet, right? But let's be thankful for the opportunity to be here, incarnated today, and have this opportunity to work. And again, doesn't need to happen overnight. It will happen in the right timing for each one of us. Each person is different. Each person has their own time, and it's always slow. There's no one that is faster than another one. We all doing very slowly, you know. And one day, that day will come where we'll be as perfect as Jesus. Right? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Marcio. Now we have a lot of time for questions. If anyone has questions, I think we have. We can ask Marcio anything about the law of progress. Do we have questions online? No. I have a question.
You're not allowed to. Are you?
I think I will be the one of the. Well, I was expecting. I was looking at you and your lecture, and I was thinking about it. I think about some of the progress that is happening in the world, not morally, right? But we see like electric cars, we see artificial intelligence, we see a lot of things that are coming our way, and in some cases we see that those things can be used against the humans in general, right? So we could have like people being killed by those things, or even job posts being reduced by those things. How can we find a balance? So is there a way? Is this balance happening afterwards, or is there anything that we can do to find a balance, or how do you see those things happening, and what can we do to make it help the humanity in general? What is the it is a challenge in my mind.
It is, but it's again, what are we gonna do with it? We can always make two decisions, to go to the right or to the left, to the good or to the bad. So jobs will change. It is not God, it's part of the laws, right? Law of labor is there. Jobs we're always gonna have. Different jobs, but we're gonna have jobs. Right? So we need to be prepared for that. That's one thing. So it's motivating us. If we think about this as this change is motivating us to continue progress intellectually. Mm-hmm. We're gonna need to change. If there's cars and we don't need drivers anymore, someone will need to program those cars, right? Mm-hmm. So the drivers may need to know how to program. So they need to change intellectually to have a new job. So it's forcing us. It's a way to force us to progress intellectually. Mm-hmm. Sooner or later, it will come, right? So we're gonna need to be prepared for that. So it's us helping the next generation to be prepared for that. We are gonna learn through it. We're gonna learn how to deal with it. But it's how we use it, you know.
Yeah, and it's in it, and we all have a part in this progress, right? We have to make sure that whatever we do in the society with that technology
Exactly.
is, we have to be the example as well,
Yeah.
right?
And the technology will not come and kill anyone, right?
Yeah.
Who will program that machine to do that is who we're gonna kill,
Yeah.
right? So that's another thing. What we are doing with that technology? Are we programming it to do good or to do bad? Right? Because machine doesn't work if someone tell them what to do.
And we have a
Just have a comment. Yeah, you're talking about the balance. The balance is going to come when we're as morally evolved as intellectually. Because as Marcio brought, we brought here to grow intellectually and morally. And unfortunately, by free will, we're growing more intellectually than morally. Once we develop ourselves, but then the intellectual will help us with the morally, like Marcio brought it. So once we find this balance, when they're both developed equally, the balance is right there. Because it doesn't matter what kind of technology we have today, it doesn't matter what kind of technology we're gonna have in 20 years. Historically, humanity has been using technology for the good and the bad. 2,000 years ago, you could use your sword to go and hunt so you could feed your family. You could use it to kill someone. And today, you can use the internet to kill someone, because internet, you can kill someone. We have teenagers now committing suicide because people post stuff that embarrassing them and they cannot deal with that and they kill themselves. So internet can kill people, but can save lives, like this child, the child in Africa that Marcio brought to us. So it's really historically what's happening now, even though we have this bunch of technology, is absolutely not different than what we were doing 3,000-4,000 years ago, right? It's just different tools that we have in hand. What is really going to bring the balance is when we start to grow morally. So that's when comes the religious part of Spiritism, which has three parts: is science, philosophy, and religion. When you bring the religion, which is moral, and balance with the intellectual growth that we have, the balance is right there. Then we will never anymore use technology to do the bad. We're only going to use it to do the good, right?
And when we get to that moment, the planet will be a more evolved planet. So we will not be on the try and expiation planet anymore, right? We're gonna be a happy planet where everything is balanced.
And I like your comment about the kids, right? What we do with them, right? So how do we teach them? Because if we are the example, they will become the next ones who are going to evolve morally, and then take advantage of the whatever technology that is available at the time they are living on Earth, right? So it's really it's a balance that we have to find ourselves.
As a new father, you're gonna be
And I was thinking about it too.
Not only that, you have to remember that we're going to eventually discarnate and reincarnate, and mostly inside the same family. So whatever you raise your kids, is how they may raise you when you come back. So if you raise your kids to be selfish, self-centered and everything, most likely that's the kind of parents they're going to be for you when you reincarnate in the future. So watch out, yeah.
Yeah, we have to pay attention to our actions, right?
No pressure.
Do we have any other question? So then we are going to close for the passes. Thank you all for watching us through the internet. We hope to see you again next Sunday.